What if three men could vanish from a lighthouse in the middle of the ocean, leaving behind only questions that would haunt the world for over a century? Welcome to SherlockMode. December 15th, 1900. The wild Atlantic waters surrounding Scotland's Outer Hebrides are churning with winter fury. 21 miles west of the Isle of Lewis, a cluster of 7 rocky outcrops known as the Flannan Isles rise from the depths like ancient tombstones. These islands have always carried an air of dread. Fishermen call them the Seven Hunters, and local shepherds who bring sheep to graze never dare spend the night. They whisper of spirits that haunt these cursed rocks. On the largest island, Moor, stands a lighthouse. 75 feet of white granite tower, built just 1 year earlier to guide ships through these treacherous waters. Its beacon can be seen 24 miles away on a clear night. Tonight, 3 men are tasked with keeping that light burning. James Duckett, the principal keeper, 43 years old with a weathered face and steady hands. Thomas Marshall, 28, the second assistant, known for his meticulous weather recordings. And Donald MacArthur, the occasional keeper, a seasoned sailor who has battled storms that would terrify lesser men. These are not weak or inexperienced men. They are veterans of the sea. The lighthouse keeper's world is one of isolation and routine. Every day, they clean the massive lenses, trim the wicks, and record the weather. Their only connection to civilization is the supply ship that arrives every 2 weeks. But something is different about this December day. The logbook entries begin to tell a disturbing tale. Thomas Marshall writes of winds unlike anything he has ever seen before. He notes that James Duckett has become unusually quiet, hardly speaking at all. Most troubling of all, he records that Donald MacArthur, the tough seasoned sailor, has been weeping. What could make a man who has survived countless Atlantic storms break down and cry? What invisible terror was closing in on these isolated men? The final entry in the logbook is chilling in its simplicity. December 15th, storm ended. Sea calm. God is over all. But here's the mystery that would puzzle investigators for decades. Weather records from the mainland show no storm in the area during those days. The seas were reported calm. That night, the steamer Archtor passes by the Flannan Isles on its journey to Leith. The captain peers through the darkness, expecting to see the familiar flash of the lighthouse beacon. But the lighthouse is dark. Completely dark. For the first time since it was lit 1 year ago, the Flannan Isles beacon has gone out. When the Archtor docks in Leith 3 days later, the captain reports the missing light. But his report gets lost in paperwork. No one acts on this crucial warning. Days pass. The lighthouse remains dark. Ships navigate the dangerous waters without their guiding star, unaware that something terrible has happened on Moor. December 26th, Boxing Day. The relief vessel Hesperus finally reaches the Flannan Isles. Captain James Harvey expects to see the usual flag flying from the lighthouse, signaling all is well. But there is no flag, no movement, no sign of life. The island appears utterly abandoned. Captain Harvey sounds the ship's horn, the sound echoing off the cliffs like a funeral bell. Silence. He fires a flare into the gray sky, a red star blazing against the clouds. Still nothing. An overwhelming sense of dread settles over the crew. Joseph Moore, the relief keeper, volunteers to go ashore alone. As his small boat approaches the landing, 3 giant blackbirds perch on the cliffs above, watching him with unblinking eyes. Moore ties up his boat and begins the climb. 160 steep steps carved into the cliff face. Each step takes him further from safety, deeper into mystery. With every step, an inexplicable feeling of foreboding grows within him. The very air seems thick with unseen menace. His hands shake as he grips the rope railings. At the top, Moore finds the entrance gate closed but not locked. He pushes it open and the hinges creak like a sound from a nightmare. The compound appears deserted. He approaches the lighthouse door. It too is closed. His heart pounds as he turns the handle and steps inside. What he finds will haunt him for the rest of his life. The kitchen table is set for a meal that was never eaten. 3 plates, 3 cups, bread still on the cutting board. But 1 chair lies overturned on the floor. The clock on the wall has stopped. Time itself seems frozen in this place of vanishing. The only sound is the faint chirping of a canary in its cage, the sole living witness. Moore searches every room. The beds are unmade. Unusual for lighthouse keepers who are known for their strict routines. Personal belongings remain untouched. In the entrance hall, he makes a chilling discovery. 2 sets of oilskins are missing from their hooks, but the third set remains, suggesting one man left the lighthouse without protection from the elements. But why would an experienced keeper venture outside in winter weather without his protective gear? What emergency could have been so urgent? Moore runs from the lighthouse, his breath coming in panicked gasps. He signals frantically to the Hesperus. Captain Harvey immediately sends 2 more men ashore. The 3 men conduct a thorough search of the island. They scour every cave, every crevice, every hiding spot, but they find no trace of the missing keepers. However, they do find evidence of tremendous violence. At the West Landing, where supplies are normally unloaded, chaos reigns. Iron railings, built to withstand the worst storms, are bent and twisted like toy metal. A supply box that was stored over 100 feet above sea level has been smashed to pieces. Concrete blocks weighing over a ton have been displaced. Railway tracks have been torn from their moorings. What force could have caused such destruction? Even more bizarre, turf has been ripped up from the very top of the cliff, 150 feet above the sea. No ordinary wave could reach such heights. Captain Harvey immediately sends a telegram to the Northern Lighthouse Board. His words are haunting. A dreadful accident has happened at the Flannans. The 3 keepers, James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, and the occasional have disappeared from the island. The clocks were stopped and other signs indicated that the accident must have happened about a week ago. Poor fellows, they must have been blown over the cliffs or drowned trying to secure a crane. But even as he writes these words, Captain Harvey knows something doesn't add up. News of the disappearance spreads like wildfire. The mystery captures the public imagination. How do 3 experienced men simply vanish from a lighthouse in the middle of the ocean? On December 29th, Robert Muirhead, a superintendent from the Northern Lighthouse Board, arrives to conduct the official investigation. Muirhead examines every piece of evidence with scientific precision. He studies the clothing left behind, measures the damage at the West Landing, and interviews every witness. His conclusion, written in his official report of January 8, 1901, attempts to solve the mystery with cold logic. From evidence which I was able to procure, I was satisfied that the men had been on duty up till dinner time on Saturday the 15th of December. That they had gone down to secure a box in which the mooring ropes were kept, and which was secured in a crevice in the rock about 110 feet above sea level. And that an extra-large sea had rushed up the face of the rock, had gone above them, and coming down with immense force, had swept them completely away. But this official explanation raises more questions than it answers. Why would all 3 men leave the lighthouse unattended, violating the most sacred rule of lighthouse keeping? The regulations were crystal clear. At least 1 keeper must remain at the lighthouse at all times. This rule was never broken. It could mean dismissal or worse. And why would Donald MacArthur, who left his oilskins behind, venture out in winter weather wearing only his shirt sleeves? It makes no sense. As news of the mystery spreads, theories begin to emerge from the shadows. Some speak of supernatural forces at work on the cursed island. The Flannan Isles had always been considered haunted. Ancient Celtic legends tell of the slough, evil spirits that steal souls from isolated places. Local fishermen whisper of strange lights seen on the island during storms, lights that dance and beckon to lost souls. Others propose more earthly but equally sinister theories. Could one of the keepers have suffered a mental breakdown from the crushing isolation? Lighthouse keeping was known to drive men mad. The endless isolation, the constant sound of waves, the responsibility for lives at sea. Some minds simply snapped. Could Marshall, Duckett, or MacArthur have turned violent? Could murder have stained the lighthouse walls? Could the survivors have disposed of evidence in the churning seas? But the physical evidence doesn't support a theory of violence among the men. There are no signs of struggle, no blood, no damaged furniture except for the single overturned chair. Modern science offers another explanation that would have been unknown in 1900. The phenomenon of rogue waves. These monstrous walls of water can appear without warning, reaching heights of over 100 feet. They strike with the force of a freight train. Could such a wave have reached the West Landing where the men were working? Could it have swept them away and caused the massive damage found there? The damage at the landing certainly suggests something of enormous power struck the island. But could even a rogue wave have moved blocks weighing over a ton? And still, the central mystery remains. Why were all 3 men outside the lighthouse at the same time? Some investigators suggest that 2 men went out first, and the third followed when they failed to return. Perhaps he rushed out without his oilskins to help his comrades. This would explain why Donald MacArthur's protective gear was still in the lighthouse. He may have sacrificed his own safety to attempt a rescue. But questions persist. The logbook entries describing storms that never happened. The strange behavior of the men in their final days. The tears of a seasoned sailor. December 15th becomes a date that haunts maritime history. On that day, 3 men walked into oblivion, leaving behind only questions that echo through time. The poet Wilfred Wilson Gibson immortalized the mystery in his haunting ballad. Though 3 men dwell on Flannan Isle to keep the lamp alight, as we steered under the lee, we caught no glimmer through the night. Though we hunted high and low, and hunted everywhere, of the 3 men's fate we found no trace of any kind in any place, but a door ajar, and an untouched meal, and an overtoppled chair. Years pass. Decades turn to centuries. The lighthouse continues to operate, but now it is automated. No keepers live on the cursed island. Ships still pass by the Flannan Isles, guided by the beacon that once went dark. But sailors who know the story feel a chill when they see that white tower rising from the waves. The mystery has inspired countless books, films, and investigations. In 2018, the movie The Vanishing brought the story to a new generation, though it took dramatic liberties with the truth. Television documentaries have examined every angle, every theory, every scrap of evidence. But the truth remains as elusive as sea mist. Paranormal investigators have visited the island, claiming to detect spiritual activity. Some report hearing voices calling out over the wind. Marine archaeologists have searched the waters around the West Landing, hoping to find remains or equipment that might solve the puzzle. Meteorologists have studied historical weather patterns, trying to explain the storm entries in the logbook that matched no official records. Psychologists have analyzed the isolation and stress that lighthouse keepers endured, seeking clues to the men's final actions. But after more than 120 years, the mystery of the Flannan Isles remains unsolved. The sea has kept its secret. James Duckett left behind a wife and children who never learned his fate. His family lived with questions that could never be answered. Thomas Marshall, the young keeper who recorded those strange final weather observations, vanished at just 28 years old. What did he see in those last days? Donald MacArthur, the seasoned sailor who reportedly wept before his disappearance, took his secrets to a watery grave. What terror made such a man cry? Today, the Flannan Isles lighthouse stands as a monument to mystery. Its beam still cuts through the darkness, but it illuminates no answers. Visitors to the island report an oppressive atmosphere, a feeling that they are not alone. Some say they can still hear voices carried on the wind. The canary that Joseph Moore found alive in the lighthouse died shortly after the discovery. It was as if it had been waiting to witness the mystery's revelation. Every December 15th, maritime historians remember the day when 3 men stepped out of history and into legend. The official records remain sealed in archives, but they tell us little more than we already know. The truth died with the men who lived it. Some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved. Some secrets belong to the sea forever. But we cannot stop wondering. We cannot stop searching for answers. The human mind rebels against accepting the unexplainable. Perhaps that is the true power of the Flannan Isles mystery. It reminds us that despite all our technology and knowledge, there are still things we cannot understand. In our digital age, when everything seems knowable and searchable, the Flannan Isles stands as proof that some secrets remain beyond our reach. The Lighthouse Keeper's Rule book stated that the light must never go out. But on December 15, 1900, darkness fell over the Flannan Isles. And in that darkness, 3 men disappeared forever, taking with them the answer to one of the sea's greatest mysteries. Let us analyze this mystery like Sherlock Holmes would. We have examined every piece of evidence, every witness account, every theory proposed over 123 years. The facts are these. 3 experienced lighthouse keepers vanished simultaneously from an isolated island. They left behind an untouched meal, an overturned chair, and massive storm damage that defied weather records. The logbook recorded storms that never happened according to mainland weather stations. The men's behavior in their final days suggested extreme distress. 2 men took their protective gear, but one did not, suggesting either haste or that he followed the others into danger. The lighthouse was abandoned against all regulations. The damage at the west landing indicates a force of incredible power struck the island. Concrete blocks weighing over a ton were displaced. Could a rogue wave, unknown to science in 1900, have reached heights of 150 feet and swept the men away? Modern oceanography says yes, it is possible. Could psychological breakdown from isolation have caused one keeper to harm the others? The evidence shows no signs of violence or struggle. Could supernatural forces have claimed the men? Science offers no support for such theories, yet the mystery remains unexplained by conventional means. The most likely explanation remains the official one. The men went to secure equipment during dangerous conditions and were swept away by an extraordinary wave. But this explanation requires us to accept that all 3 experienced keepers broke the cardinal rule of lighthouse keeping by leaving their post unattended. Perhaps the first 2 went out together, breaking protocol in their urgency. When they failed to return, the 3rd man rushed to help without proper gear. This theory explains why Donald MacArthur's oilskins remained in the lighthouse. He sacrificed safety for the slim hope of saving his companions. The mysterious storm entries in the logbook could have been localized weather phenomenon that mainland stations missed, or even hallucinations from men under extreme stress. The weeping of Donald MacArthur might have been a premonition of doom, or simply the effect of isolation and fear wearing down even the strongest mind. But even this rational explanation leaves questions. Why did experienced men make such fatal errors in judgment? What emergency was so urgent that it overrode a century of lighthouse protocol? Perhaps we will never know the complete truth. The Atlantic Ocean guards its secrets jealously, and the Flannan Isles have kept theirs for over a century. What we can conclude is that on December 15, 1900, something extraordinary happened on Eilean Moor. Whether natural disaster, human error, or something beyond our understanding, it claimed 3 lives. The families of James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur deserve to have their memory honored. These were not careless men, but dedicated professionals who paid the ultimate price. Their disappearance reminds us of the dangers faced by those who work in isolation, far from help, keeping the lights burning for others' safety. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse continues to operate today, automated and unmanned. Its beacon still guides ships through treacherous waters. But for those who know the story, that light carries more than navigational guidance. It carries the memory of 3 men who vanished into mystery. Every flash of that beacon is a reminder that some questions have no answers, some mysteries have no solutions. The sea keeps its secrets, and the Flannan Isles keep theirs. In the end, perhaps that is as it should be. Some stories are not meant to be solved, but to be remembered. Some mysteries exist not to be explained, but to remind us of all we do not know. The Flannan Isles mystery endures because it speaks to something deep in the human experience. Our fear of the unknown, our fascination with the unexplained. In a world where we believe everything can be Googled, measured, and explained, the Flannan Isles stands as a monument to mystery itself. James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur may be gone, but they are not forgotten. Their story lives on, whispered wherever people gather to share tales of the sea. And somewhere in the midst of time and legend, perhaps they keep their eternal watch, guardians of the greatest mystery the sea has ever known. The light still burns at Flannan Isles, but the men who once tended it have become part of the light itself, part of the eternal mystery of the sea. If you enjoyed unraveling this mystery, like and subscribe to SherlockMode.